What is EPFL? Well, it's rather dynamic. It's a really growing campus. It has close to 10,000 students now in 5 different schools and 2 colleges. There are 320 labs with 3,600 scientific staff and faculty. The federal budget, it's what we are getting from the government, is 630 million per year. And external funding which comprises funding from national funding agencies, also income from contracts with industry, income from licenses, and other grants or sponsored chairs for professors, like we saw yesterday with Simo. He was sponsored by by Patek Philippe. Thanks, Alex. The 5 schools comprise engineering with materials, electronics, mechanical, microengineering, basic sciences, computer and communication sciences, we call that IT basically, life sciences, which we started about 12, 14 years ago when our present president arrived. One of his projects was to start here this school of life sciences, which was not here at that time. And you see it grew rather fast. And also architecture, civil and environmental engineering. We do have 2 colleges for management of technology. They provide courses, lectures to PhD students. Also they do research on technology transfer, on licensing, and other issues in that field. And also a College of Humanities. If I'm looking more closely to our job, to technology transfer, to collaboration with industry, it's really the engineering, basic sciences, and yeah, somehow IT, which are on top of the list, really our major clients, internal clients. But there are not only labs. We do have an innovation park here. Our technology transfer office is, I think, here. No, yes, it's one of those buildings. I don't know which one now. It's really strange how it's taken. And in this innovation park, there are a number of large companies that are hosted. You can look at, well, see the names here. And also about 90 startups, which is really very interesting, because it's really making this ecosystem very rich, and it really lowers the barriers for communications. It allows to these interfaces between the different stakeholders to be much more natural and easygoing. So proximity is really a key factor, and we already mentioned that yesterday. If there is an opportunity in some places to bring together on the same site labs, so academia, with small or medium companies, with big companies, also with startups, with also all other stakeholders that are working in the field of innovation and technology transfer, like industrial liaison programs, either regional, thematic, or we'll learn a little bit more about that today. It's really one of the key of success, because everybody feels somehow concerned by these interactions and by innovation in the finally. Well, the Technology Transfer Office is, in terms of an organization, depends from the Vice Presidency for Innovation and Technology Transfer. This was a position that was provided, started in 2004. And I must say this is another key element that really brought that credibility and showed the support by higher management to all these activities related to innovation, to partnerships, startups, etc. So in this ecosystem, under this Vice Presidency in Innovation, there is the Technology Transfer Office. I will not go into detail on all the things we're doing, but it's intellectual property, demonstration prototypes, we'll talk a little bit later on that, licenses, research agreements. We also provide a course to students, to postdocs, and to the doctoral schools in the field of the management of technology and innovation. Another key element was this innovation park that you saw before, and there is a small entity within the Vice President for Innovation with 2 people that who work hard to bring on site, to do the marketing and to follow up the relations with all those companies on the site. It's not just providing space, but it's actively promoting and looking for interactions, proposing projects, proposing competencies of different labs that they can work together so that they see a benefit of being here on site. With SMEs, there are basically 2 industrial liaison programs, the Alliance Association. This is a regional program, and also some several thematic liaison programs. For startups, you certainly heard about these Inno grants, grants that are provided to students, master students, or doctoral students that who wish to start a venture. There is also a lot of coaching and mentoring provided, and also the fact that they are all on this innovation park is really important. I've mentioned before these industrial liaison programs which are thematic on different themes, so on top of what's regional, we call them centers. There's a transportation center, and we will have the chance later this afternoon to hear about that from Michael Temans, who is the deputy director from this center. And there are also some special projects like Solar Impulse. You saw that in the video before, and certainly heard about that. These special, we call them special projects because these are really interdisciplinary projects, bringing labs work together. We saw already yesterday at the CSM how important it is for innovation to have this kind of projects. And to make, and how difficult also to make people interact and understand each other. So basically, under this Vice President of Innovation, there are these entities: the Technology Transfer Office, Alliance, Industry Liaison, Partnerships, Inno grants, and the strategic initiatives with these thematic programs. The main activities of the TTO, I will really wrap it up very quickly. So establishing and the contracts with industry, of course negotiating them and getting a signature, evaluate the invention disclosures that are brought to us by the inventors. Of course, we'll have to evaluate that by on the basis of prior art. We have a special agreement with a Federal Institute of Intellectual Property in Bern, where we can do the prior art searches at very special conditions. We have to analyze the potential, ownership issues. Again, on all these points, on the main activities, of course, we can talk about that later. Also, tomorrow afternoon, there will be a special small session dedicated to that. So those who are more interested, what we are doing, can join that session and will certainly learn more. Defining the technology transfer strategy, protection by patent applications, define the best strategies for the filing. Are we starting with provisional patent applications? Are we really filing a regular from the beginning to give maybe more value, because we are closer to a point where we have to convince an investor, or but of course these strategies will all depend on the status of the invention and its potential. So we have to communicate with a number of stakeholders, in patent agents, of course, legal counsels, and other attorneys. We do have a program to support what we call an advanced proof of concept, which we call the Enable, and I will talk about that a little bit later. We do search for partners. Well, who? Basically, this is a tough side of it, because it's not easy to market inventions. It's really somehow a point, an aspect that really that really think very much about it, and it's mainly our professors, our ecosystem that brings, and we hope that in the future would even bring more the industrial partner to us than trying to do marketing, to go to showcase the technologies to specific events like the CeBIT in Hanover, or Tech Connect in the US. We did that in the past. We tried hard, and the output of that way of marketing was none. So it's really something that we thought about it very hardly and deeply, and what we tried to do, as we also discussed yesterday, to foster this the spirit of innovation and all the attractiveness of the site in providing really easy access and of course competent knowledge and also business knowledge of our labs in interacting with industry. We do manage the licenses after they are signed. It takes a lot of time, IP, finances, equity stock in startups, because for each startup that is created, the institution takes a small part of equity, and of course also royalties in case products are sold. You can certainly find more on our site, and of course we'll be open to discuss any questions you may have more deeply in the next today and tomorrow. Some numbers just to have a flavor of it. There are about more than 200 industrial research agreements signed per year, which bring about 50 million Swiss francs. We have to evaluate and to discuss about 100 invention disclosures per year. We file about half of them, so well, even more, so 2/3 of them as patent applications, about 5 to 80 per year. These are rough numbers, but just to have an idea. Licenses, we sign about 30 licenses per year. We do have 10 to 12 startups. We do have licensing revenues in the range of 2 to 3, even last year it was 3.5 million. Active cases that still need to be managed and require interactions with the licensee, with the labs, about close to 400. And the licenses which we have to follow, and technology transfer agreement also, yes? Yes?
The university helps them with funding at the beginning, or they have to apply for a grant at national authorities?
For the startups, oh yes, okay. The question was whether the university helps the startups at the inception, at the very beginning. So the university would not help the startup itself. It helps before the creation of the startup by, for example, this program, which is called InnoGrants. It provides to startupper which has not already created a startup with a certain amount, it is 100,000 Swiss francs, for 1 year to prepare the business of the startups, to evaluate if it makes sense to start a startup, so if there is an economic potential, if there is a market, which are the further steps, which are the obstacles and the solutions, etc. This is how the university helps in this startup creation phase. In addition to that, this 100,000 Swiss francs are for the salary of this postdoc or doc fellow. We do have, with this Enable program, the opportunity to pay also the making of prototypes, of demonstrator, more advanced demonstrators, to, for example, to have done some studies or benchmarking the technology. For example, in life science, we paid a toxicology study to know if the material was toxic or not. We paid, for example, we bought a monoclonal antibody to help going to the phase where we make animal trials. Without the monoclonal, we cannot do it. So these are short, small, amount supports, a couple of tenths of thousands Swiss francs, 10, 20, 30. And then, of course, when the startup is in that period, so during the InnoGrant, etc., we also provide professional coaching. There are coaches that help the startupper to prepare the business plan, to interact or to find investor opportunities, to put him in contact with those opportunities. But again, there is no public institution in Switzerland that invests directly after the creation of the startup. In some European countries it is the case, in Switzerland it is not. Okay, so to do all that, in the Technology Transfer Office we need different backgrounds, science, business and legal, and we may have already met with some of the technology transfer people. There are 8 technology transfer managers who have different backgrounds. We do have back office, of course. There are 2 legal counsels, and we all try to do our best with all these cases. So I think I will stop here. So